This podcast is sponsored by nobody.
Hey dudes, this is Cindy Hinds, Candace and David Cronenberg's The Brood, and you're listening to Tommy Throwback Kovac on Splat from the Past, a show about horror, stinky smells, and sex jokes. I love it.
Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today I will be welcoming back my good friend, the beautiful, the lovely, the awesome Cindy Hinds, and we are going to celebrate the 45th anniversary of Deadline, the follow-up movie she did after The Brood. And as a lot of you know, I have a great relationship with Cindy, and it's going to be great to have her back on today. I always love making her laugh. I just love the sound of her laugh, and it's going to be great. And that's such an underrated movie, Deadline. I went back and watched it again recently, and I was like, God, this is so awesome. It captures the decadence of Hollywood, even though it was shot completely in Canada, but just the context of what it's about. You know, it's just it's an amazing horror film, and I am looking forward to this interview. Like I said, to have her back on the what was it, fifth time I think I've had her on now in the last 5 years, and I gotta say, I am just blessed beyond blessed. This month of Halloween, October, has just been amazing, and it's going to keep on getting more and more amazing, I tell you. So yeah, here is my new interview with Cindy Hinds. Hey Cindy, welcome back. How are you today?
I am good. How are you?
I am fantastic. I mean, I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but even though the world's getting crazier and weirder every day, I am just so blessed and I can't complain.
I would have to agree with you on that one. I feel the same. You know, it's always fun to bitch and complain, but when I sit back and look at things, life is not so bad.
Yeah.
The Jays are going to the World Series. Come on now, you caught me on a really good day.
Yeah. God, how often does that happen?
Well, not since 1993, so there you go.
God, that's a long time.
Oh, too funny. Yes, 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 yes.
I
I can't believe it's been a year since we've spoke.
I
That's
know.
crazy.
I know, right? Time just it goes by fast. I mean,
It does.
1 minute it's October, next minute it's the next October.
Right? And we are just another year older.
Exactly, but we're still sexy as fuck.
Of course, of course.
So, can you believe it's been 45 years since Deadline?
I cannot. When you said that to me, it took me a moment to go, oh my gosh, I guess it has been. Because if I think about, the other stuff too, but
Yeah,
Deadline is one of those films that we don't speak about too often because I always get associated with The Brood. But
yeah.
Deadline was quite an incredible film, and the fact that it's 45 years old and that Vinegar Syndrome decided to, relaunch it for me a few years ago, which I thought was lovely. Um, it's incredible. I had the pleasure of watching it not that long ago with a friend of mine
Uh
for the
huh.
first time in many, 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 many years. And I was surprised at how well it held up, but I was also very, very surprised at the correlation in a lot of things that were going on in that film versus what goes on today in the industries and the ups and the downs and the ins and the outs and the pressures,
Yeah.
and then also the effects of what could be going on behind closed doors that we don't know about as far as family trauma and mental illness and all that kind of stuff. I think Mario was ahead of his time with that one.
Oh yeah, when I was watching this the other night, I was thinking to myself, this movie, even though it's shot in Canada, it really captured the whole movie business of and all the decadent sleaze of Hollywood behind the scenes, and cocaine was everywhere at that time, and couples were swinging, and there was all this crazy stuff that was
Yep,
going on, which still happens today.
yep. really over the top, and people might kind of go, yeah, as if, but it truly was. And I mean, and all you have to do is listen to some of the language that Mario was writing, and it falls true today, as far as the way we perceive each other and talk about issues and all of that kind of stuff. It's crazy. It's a good one. Never mind the fact that there's a whole lot of blood and guts and gore and really good murder scenes in it, right?
Very good murder scenes. Yeah. So this was right after The Brood, right? Like, I mean, you look exactly the same as if time hadn't passed.
It was only a year later
Hmm.
that I had got the call for it. And if memory serves, I think this part was just offered to me. I believe they had seen my work in The Brood and knew and felt that I could handle that film.
Hmm.
'Cause certainly, again, you're dealing with some really heavy, heavy stuff that back in the 70s, even the 80s, as actors, even child actors, we were openly exposed to all of it. There wasn't the things put in place like there are now. Like
Right.
the situations, the things that I did in that film would never be accepted, tolerated, or done nowadays.
Right.
But back then it was what it was. So, it didn't even really bother me to be put in some of those scenes or some of those situations. They were difficult, um, but I had to be a young kid that could handle, being hung on a couple of different occasions and being surrounded by, you know, naked women and sexuality and drugs and all that kind of stuff. So I know there was a lot of discussion. There was a lot of discussion with me. There was always questions asked of me. Am I comfortable? Am I okay to do this? My mom was always right there. But it was certainly a much different set than what the Brood was. It's a completely different set, especially
Yeah.
for my parts. There were, ironically enough, similarities in the family dynamic, if it were. But as far as the type of horror, it's a completely different scope of a horror film, right? You're speaking about me being the daughter in a family who, the traumatic thing happens versus these monsters coming at me at the end, and that the life was the horror story as opposed to my father writes horror stories, and our
Hmm.
family life is probably more horror than anything that the father could have ever written.
Yeah. You kind of cock block him a little bit, with "I can't sleep, Daddy," and he's got all these hot naked women around him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was not, I wasn't pleasant, nor should I be with what happened to me, right? We don't want any spoiler alerts. I don't know if people have watched the film and know what goes on with it, um, because the fun part of the film is all the little stories that, as a film writer, my father, and my father was Stephen Young,
Yep.
uh, and he was a horror writer in the film. So a lot of
Yeah.
his little clips are what I find as the fun part. What I, as a grown woman watching the film now and kind of taking off the rose-colored glasses and sitting back and watching the other part of the film, which was about this family falling apart and dealing with all these issues and all that kind of stuff. It was very difficult, just on a human level, to watch that kind of stuff go on in those scenes. And Stephen Young and Sharon Masters were really phenomenal, I felt, in what they brought through with those characters and how they showed. Um, and I can remember having difficulty with emotion and just the way some of it did feel as a young kid. Some of it can hit close to home, when you're dealing
Hmm.
with a parent that's maybe had a little bit too much to drink, or a parent that can't be home and you want them to be there, to spend some time with you, but they're too busy working, or all of those kind of things, right? Or
Right.
sadly, children get into trouble if parents aren't around watching them. And, even the fact that the parents forgot about the kids, that kind of stuff. You're like, what? I actually forgot about that. And when I
Yeah.
watched it with my friend, I was like, oh my God, they forgot about us. I forgot about that, but they forgot about us. Those kind of things are pretty heavy when you take the horror film genre out of it and just look at the story of the family.
My brother's 9 years older than me, and everything you just described is what he went through. And it boggles my mind how I didn't have that. I mean, I
Mhm.
did get this. My dad is a drunk, but like I never saw anything like inappropriate or bad like when I was growing up.
Yeah,
But my brother did, and it's weird to me how everything went away by the time I was born.
that's
You know.
great. It's good for you. You didn't have to deal with that, but I thought it was really brave of Mario, and especially like I say now, as a kid, all I could think of was just how horrible the storyline was. Right, I absolutely grasped how serious the storyline was as far as my character went.
Hmm.
I didn't really get or know what the other stuff was because I was completely unaware of it. Right, that's all done in editing and after the fact. But with my storyline and the scenes that I had to do, as much as it was fun and I wanted to do a great job, I also remember going, wow, this is like real life stuff, not where the Brood and other things that I've done felt kind of fantastical, if you will.
Hmm.
They felt like make believe.
Yeah.
I remember that Deadline sometimes felt very real. It felt, yeah, like it was something that you could see happening, which is sometimes difficult as well, especially when you're a kid.
Yeah. Stephen Young, oh my God, he's had a great career. He was in Patton and Soylent Green and
Oh yeah,
Lifeguard and the Clown Murders with John Candy. What was he like? What
yes.
was he like playing your dad?
He was did I luck out or what? Right, I go from
Yeah.
Art Hindle to Stephen Young. Like, swear to God,
To
I was
Christopher
the luckiest
Walken.
kid. Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, and then a couple of years later, I got to meet Christopher Walken. But then Jack Palance was shortly after meeting Stephen Young. Then I got to work with Jack Palance in Tales of the Haunted.
Yep.
But Stephen Young was such a joy. He was so down to earth, and we had quite a bit of time together. But he was very much on, are you okay? This is very difficult. And I can remember him having difficulty with some of the scenes, like seeing me the way that I was, I'm sure if, any parent having kids or young ones in their lives was not enjoying doing those scenes and watching me have to go through what I did. But even when he was with all the ladies in the one scene with all the cocaine and everything like that, he was very much of the, be careful with her and she's young and are you okay? And if we move her this way, everything's safe. She's not going to fall. She's not going to get hit. So I remember that very much about him always being concerned whenever I was in a scene that
Hmm.
everything was going to be okay. And I also remember that breakfast scene with the cereal. And it's funny because they use that as one of the photos and some of the things, but I remember how soggy that
Hmm.
cereal got, and it was so disgusting. And him making jokes about that.
Wow. Yeah, Sharon Masters, who played your mom, was a hottie, and I found out this was her last movie. Do you know what happened to her?
I do not know what happened to her, but I can tell you that woman, man, oh man, did she give it her all. Very, because hers was also very physical, and some of a lot of the stuff that she had to do with that film. There was quite a few heavy physical scenes between her and Steven, and her performance was phenomenal. She was so great.
Yeah.
I do not know. I think the other thing is I was so young as well, and I was finishing up my career a couple of years after that, and then I stepped out of it too. So a lot of these people have gone by the wayside, and I have no idea what happened with them.
Yeah, Bev Marsh, who played your sister. I'll give this one little spoiler. She's full of blood in the bathtub, and that's not like a tub of blood. That's a vat of blood. I mean, it is so much. I'm like, oh my God, that must have been a mess on set. I don't know if you know this, but the members of Kiss donated their blood to their comic book ink back in the 70s.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, that's a
That's a
fa-
great fun fact.
That's a famous story. Yeah, it's been around forever, and like that, it just reminded me of that. Yeah, I can imagine that's what it looked like. You know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's I think with there's I think some things that went on too that I also, being a kid, I wasn't too involved in, but behind the scenes regarding financing and getting things done and differences of opinions that happened on that set
Mm-hmm.
with Deadline. So I think that could be part and parcel as to why it didn't launch the way that some movies have. It got out there and it got on VHS. I think Paragon was the first
Oh yeah.
distributor of it, before Vinegar Syndrome got it. I think Vinegar Syndrome worked with Henry Less to get it done, and I know they worked with him to do some of the behind the scenes stuff on the new edition that came out. I wasn't spoken to or contacted regarding any of that stuff, um, which is unfortunate. I have so many questions about it, but yeah, it's unfortunate that this film isn't more popular. When I talk about it with people, they have no clue what I'm talking about when I say Deadline.
There's a lot of Canadian horror movies that are lost gems that people don't remember from that time.
Mm-hmm.
There's one called Skullduggery. Do you remember that one?
I do not.
It's about a theater
Skullduggery.
company. They're doing a it's like a teenage theater company. They're doing a Camelot play, and there's a guy that's like killing them one by one and stuff. And so many actors in that movie do not like that movie and don't like talking about it. Apparently, the producer was not very nice to them or something. But that's a gem that that I like, you know. And Paragon, yeah, it's funny. Paragon's not as remembered as like say like Thorn MI Video or Media Home Entertainment, who released a lot of the low budget horror movies in the early '80s. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I I actually saw the VHS on eBay the other day and stuff because I wondered who distributed it on home video, so I went and looked on eBay, and it was Paragon. They also did Just Before Dawn, and they did that Jaws ripoff that William Greffey directed and stuff.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
The boys who played your brothers, Philip Leonard and Todd Woodcraft, are they still around? Do you see those guys?
I have I wouldn't know them if I bumped into them. I think just being out of the industry for, 45 years, kind of
Yeah.
40 years, I guess, 40 years now, sets the tone for that. But I don't even know if they're still in the industry or acting or doing anything. I do, I don't, and it's funny because I don't have a lot of memory with them,
Hmm.
because I shouldn't say I don't. I do because of the one scene. Um, and that was quite, it's one of those traumatic kind of scenes to do and
Hmm.
stuff. But the young man that played my younger brother in it, I do remember him being a bit of a handful on set,
Oh.
being just a typical young boy who
Yeah.
kept running around and getting into trouble and knocking things over and being told to go and sit and stay and just wait. And that's a very funny thing that I can remember. That though is on a couple of occasions him being just very wanting to go and do stuff and getting a little antsy to do his things. And yeah, the and I think we didn't spend a lot of time together. It could have been because of schooling and stuff like that too.
Hmm.
And I was on set a lot more than they were. I only worked with them a couple of days,
Hmm.
and then most of the other stuff was on my own scenes and stuff.
Yeah. And Jeannie Elias, oh my God, I love seeing her play this narcissistic actress who curses a lot. It is so awesome because a lot of people remember her from that Seinfeld episode where her and her husband are having a bris for their baby, you know, and the rabbi circumcises Jerry's finger, you know,
Yes, 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 yes,
and
yes, yes.
and
Exactly
like
right. So
yeah,
yeah,
and just seeing
is
her
it?
like this is hilarious, you know. And she did a
Well,
horror movie not long after this called The Pit.
was she in the pit?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, I've heard about this. At the hole in the backyard or something like that.
yeah. And
Where things come out of, yeah.
the kid who plays the lead, he's like a dance teacher in Canada now, and I've reached out to him several times, but he hasn't replied me back. And hopefully, I'll get Jeannie on next year because it's the 45th anniversary. I reached out to her years ago too, and the same thing. But yeah. She went on to a big career.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's so fun to look back at some of the stuff that I did so long ago, and then you see where where some of these people are now. And I didn't realize, because I wouldn't have, being a kid at the time, that a lot of these young adults were just at the beginning of their careers.
Yeah.
No idea, no idea. I like no clue that some of these people were just starting out and were going to be
Yeah.
uber famous someday.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know the ones. Yeah, especially in Canada, the ones who come to the States. A lot of them just break through. It's
Yep.
amazing. I I love that Carol Pope and her band plays on stage in the movie. I'm thinking about reaching out to her and maybe her sister Elaine Pope, who's a comedy writer. She wrote for Seinfeld for a lot of years too
Yep.
and
Yep.
stuff. Yeah.
I had the pleasure, Carol Pope did a night of music at a local music venue restaurant
Hmm.
place in Toronto called Hughes Room, and I took myself, as I will often do, take myself out for dinner and to do something, and
Hmm.
she was playing, so I thought that is going to be fun because I've never met this woman, I've never talked to her, but I have a VHS copy of my film that would be so fun to go and get her to sign.
Hmm.
So I decided to go to Toronto, went out for dinner, waited around, and she actually walked by me when she was going up to the stage. So I passed her a note and she took it.
Hmm.
And on the note, I just said, you don't know me. This
Hmm.
is who I am. We did this film together a lifetime ago. And so we met up afterwards, and
Oh,
her right hand guy was there with her. And we chatted for about an hour about everything, and I got them to sign it and stuff. But it was really fun. It was really, really fun to be able to see her. And they had such a crazy ass time doing it.
yeah.
I think they really enjoyed it. But yeah, after that many years, it was kind of fun to meet her and go, hey, we did this film together.
That is so awesome. That is so awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so cool. Yeah,
She's an incredible woman. She really is.
yeah, that's so awesome. So it sounds like you're saying you have a little bit of PTSD from watching the movie again. Do you?
I wouldn't call it PTSD, but I think it's kind of like when I watch Tales of the Haunted, because it's been so long ago and I was so young.
Mm-hmm.
I don't always exactly remember the storyline exactly how it all is. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of it kind of is like my parts that I remember. So when I sat back and watched Deadline,
Yeah.
and I was like, wow, because some of it you forget and then it brings it all back. And it's not that it's traumatic, but you go, man, oh man, that must have been hard for my mom to watch.
Yeah.
That must have been hard for any adults to watch children going through that, even the actors, because I know how I am, even with kids or when I'm volunteering doing stuff. And even though it's acting, there's still that part of it. Um, but I also very, very much remember. Well, I guess should we just do spoiler alerts and just talk about all the awful things that happened to me?
Okay.
Because they're the stories, right?
Yeah.
Um, the the hanging scene from when he's imagining me as his film.
Right.
That was the very first scene I had to film in that film.
Wow.
And I sat on set for 2 days doing nothing, just sitting around waiting for them to be able to get a harness
Right.
that would safely support me and hold me and all that stuff because of all the drops and everything. And we were in a stage studio, and they had the scaffolding built up and it looked like the old farm set. And for almost 2 full days, I sat and watched everybody else that was doing the film, if you
Mm-hmm.
were, for his stuff, in real life, right? So his scenes in the film, watching the hangings and breakdowns of adults that were just like, okay, this is, I don't want to do this anymore, those kind of things. So it was a rough couple of days. And then all of a sudden it came to me and my turn to climb up the ladder, to get up on the scaffolding and to start filming that scene. And at first I thought it was going to be fun. But I tell you, after a half a dozen drops and screaming for your daddy and then having to act like you're dead,
Mm-hmm.
it was not fun. It was
Yeah.
like, okay, I think, I think I did it maybe a dozen times or so. And then I made up the excuse that I had to go to the bathroom because it was getting too uncomfortable. It was starting to
Yeah.
take over my emotions and stuff. And I was
Mm-hmm.
still in control, but I was like, no, I don't really think I'm liking this anymore. So made up the excuse that I couldn't do it anymore. I was going to pee my pants if I didn't get down. So gracious as always. Again, nothing but beautiful memories of Mario.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, absolutely, get her down, went in, and I went into the washroom with my mom, and I was honest with my mom. And I had a bit of a breakdown and started crying a bit. And I said, that's really hard. I don't like it. It's not fun. It's kind of scary. I don't want to do this anymore. And she was like, okay, well, they might need a couple more. And I said, I don't think I want to do it. And we were so long that Mario must have caught that something wasn't quite right. And he came in and chatted with me. And they were like, you know what, Cindy? We can make it work with what we've got. Don't worry about it. You've been fantastic. It's fine. And then, but the one good thing was, because that was the very first stuff, I think it made them realize how heavy this could be.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also the worst of the worst, right?
Yeah.
Nothing else that I filmed was going to be anywhere near that bad. Even the next time that it happened, it was really,
Mm-hmm.
it was a cakewalk versus that kind of a scene. There were so many people around. I felt very in control. I was close to the ground, right? Where, you're 20 feet scaffolding versus a little bike.
Mm-hmm.
It was all different. But Mario as a party was just phenomenal when dealing with those kind of scenes. So,
Yeah.
I remember that the first hanging scene and remember the days on set and all of that like it was yesterday. I remember some of the basement scenes and those kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then the little bits in between. But I would have to say, I remember being uncomfortable where the brood, the monsters coming through the door at the end wasn't fun and it was a little unpleasant. It wasn't like being hung multiple times. It's just not. And I think anybody that's had to do something like that will probably agree.
Yeah.
Not a fun thing to do.
So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that your brood mom, Samantha Eggar, died last week. And
she did, yes.
Yeah, oh my God, I thought she was going to be around forever, because she was around forever, And I remember Lynn Griffin and Leslie Donaldson telling me that when they were making curtains with her, she was kind of quiet and standoffish. She had this airs of like, this movie is beneath me, but I need the money kind of attitude and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But you working with her on The Brood, what was that like?
I never worked with her. That's the funny thing. And oddly enough, I'd heard the same kind of
Mm-hmm.
stories on set, and I think some of it can just come across as, the properness of English etiquette and stuff as well. But there was a whole lot of money in the industry at the time to bring English actors over.
Oh, yeah.
So that could, absolutely could be that it wasn't ideal to be coming to Canada, especially in wintertime all the time. But I never met her until the wrap party. And then even then we spoke for like 2 minutes, if that.
Yeah.
It was, Cindy, this is your on-screen mother, Samantha Eggar. Oh, hey, nice to meet you. And then off she went, and that was it. So I never met her, never spoke to her, nothing, which is bizarre. It is when I sit back and go, I never did. I didn't have one single scene with her.
She was great in The Collector with Terrence Stamp, who also passed away recently. That movie is just so creepy. I'll tell you. She was very talented, very talented.
She was an incredible actress. It is definitely a loss, yes, for sure. And then condolences out to Art Hindle, who just recently lost his wife as well.
Oh God, that's awful.
Yeah, so it's been a sad bit of time here, but unfortunately, I guess we're starting to realize our mortality, aren't we, Tommy, as our years go by?
Yeah, don't remind me. My mom just got out of the hospital because she hurt her back recently, and I've been going through that, but they did a really good job of rehabilitating her and stuff, and her back is much better than it was 3 weeks ago when she had to go in. I'll tell you.
Fantastic. That's good news.
Very good news. I see you've been doing a lot of cons lately. How have they been?
They've been great. It has been a lot of fun. The one I've started I was invited to in Sudbury to help out moderating some panels is one that's been happening for a few years in northern Ontario. So it's about 3.5 hours northwest of Toronto. It's a beautiful area. A lot of films are getting made in northern Ontario. There's some money out here, and there's some industries that are trying to get things supported. So Hallmark loves our area for Christmas movies because they can film them in the summertime and get that Old Town feel, which is great.
Yeah.
But we do have Blood in the Snow Film Festival. It's our Canadian film festival that we have every year in November. And it's running the third week in November down in Toronto. And that's something I've been involved with for just over a decade now, which is great.
Nice.
And then more recently, I've signed on. When I moved into North Bay, I found some film friends, and we run just a fun little international horror film festival called the Bay of Blood,
Yeah.
and we're doing that next July. We're open for submissions now, but we really love to do the DIY small filmmaker kind of
Yeah.
stuff with the Bay of Blood. It's great. It's great.
That
Keeps
is
me busy.
that.
You know, gives me something to do, and you
Yeah.
know, I've got my my boy at home with me that I take care
Yeah.
of, and it keeps me busy as well. But I like to be able to keep my fingers in the industry and help out where I can. And yeah, it's a joy. It's funny because, as you know, I'm not typically a fan of horror films per se. It's not a genre that I will typically go and look up
Yeah.
and watch things of. But when I'm doing my festivals and all these kind of things, it's just so fun. And the community is like no other. It truly is. The horror community is the best community out there.
And you recently met my good friend Michelle Bauer.
I love Michelle. Yes, she is my my BFF, and a little
Yes.
film that we did for Brett Kelly with Spandexorcist. I can't wait to see it come out. It was just a fun thing. We were at I was going to Shock Stock, and Brett was there filming with her and doing some stuff. So he asked me, and I'm like, heck yeah, that'll be so fun. Are you kidding me? So it was an honor, but it was a pleasure to meet her. She's incredible, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, we had lunch back in June when I was in town for my birthday. I went to the Hollywood show that weekend, and we went and had what did we have? Japanese food, Chinese food, something like that. And it was just a lot of sex jokes and body innuendos the whole time. We just laughed a lot, and she let me put my tongue down her throat.
Awesome. She's phenomenal, and I just love how real she is and down to earth. She's my kind of woman, right? I
Yes.
mean, she's way more open than I am, and that's what I thought was fantastic and was so funny listening to the stories that they were talking about at Shockstock, which was phenomenal. But just how real she is, you know, like talking
Hmm.
about answering the phones for her husband's business and
Yeah.
just all those kind of, I'm like, oh, you are my kind of woman. You just, you know, just love it. Love her. She's wonderful.
Yeah, it was the best birthday lunch ever. I'll tell you, the best.
That's awesome.
I
That's
ch-
awesome.
I cherish it. So, do you have any birthday plans on the horizon?
I actually, I get myself into these situations where I offer to do things for people, but then it leaves me in a lurch. So, last Blood in the Snow, we had some merch stands,
Hmm.
and they were all put together, but not exactly like they should be.
Yeah.
So I offered to bring them home. So I brought them all home, disassembled, reassembled them all. But now I got to get them back down to Kelly for Blood in the Snow, which is in November. So on my birthday, I'm going to be going to Toronto with my son.
Hmm.
I'm going to take Blood in the Snow, all kinds of stuff for the festival. And then I'm going to see my daughter. And we're going to spend a few hours and celebrate my birthday.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That is so wonderful. So here's
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
so here's a couple jokes for you
Wonderful.
to lead you out on. What does a redneck do for Halloween?
What does a redneck do?
Pumpkin.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm writing that one down.
That's one of my
Oh, give me another
favorites.
one, Tommy. Give me another one.
It's one of my absolute favorites. What happens to your asshole when you have an orgasm?
What?
He's out drinking with the boys.
Oh, burn. Burn. I love it.
Yeah.
You have the best jokes. That was one of the most exciting things I was waiting for. New jokes from Tommy.
Well, I gotta tell you, my stepdad. I mean, he told me the best, and I've been collecting jokes, for almost 30 years because of him. And yeah, I always make sure I have the best jokes. I sometimes
You
I
do.
see some jokes on the internet. I'm like, how is that funny? But I find all the best ones. So thank you, and
Oh,
I love you so much,
thank
Cindy.
you.
Thank you so much for
You
coming
too,
back
Tommy.
on.
Thank you for the call, and I can't wait to do it again. And maybe we won't wait a year next time. How about that?
Yes, yes, we'll do it sooner. And you have a happy birthday, happy holiday
Thanks,
season,
Tommy.
and be safe.
Okay. You as well. Take care.
Mwah!
Same back. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Well, there you have it. Cindy Hinds, ain't she a sweetheart? Oh my God. Yeah, we were on a time crunch there because Cindy has to go to a festival. Otherwise, we would have talked the full hour. But we covered all the best of Deadline and Samantha Eggar and Little Michelle Bauer and the conventions and the jokes. That's a great talk. Well, until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying there's no shame in living in the past because the present sucks. Later, dudes.